you as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old can't really make a difference.
It's not always about you. It's not just one person. It's a group. It's a team. If we all show up together, that's what it's all about.
I was a part of helping to build what it is today.
I'm really lucky to get to be a part of that legacy.
Just that simple act that takes 5 or 10 minutes of your time is making a difference and is transforming someone else's life.
Once you get there and realize how much you can change someone's life, it's one of the best feelings in the world.
I'd do anything to convince you just to be a part of this.
You guys keep doing what you're doing. It's something special.
Get up and try something. Just try it. Just go to one event, one action team event.
It'll just make you feel so good about yourself.
Just for the public, if they're watching, we're not going to have that presentation this evening. We're going to, in July and then August, have the Dora Whittier group come to our meetings, and they're going to present on some of their draft and then final findings related to the full-day K implementation. And then the final facility presentation of kind of findings and recommendations will come at the end of August, early September. So just in case people happen to tune in tonight, because I did get a couple of calls asking about that meeting and if it was going to happen. That is not tonight. That's going to be now at the end of the summer. So we'll certainly post that and get that on Facebook and the district website as we get closer. But because the committee had this particular night reserved on the calendar, we decided to go ahead and have just a kind of a brief meeting pertaining to 2 items. The second item, we had a request for a field trip that's going to be overnight, come up later in June, so we figured we'd put that on for tonight. And then also, we've been very busy this spring with different meetings and town meetings and graduations and whatnot, so the regular agendas have been pretty busy. I thought this would be a good night to go back and actually kind of revisit the fiscal 17 budget, because we really didn't do that after town meeting in the springtime. We knew what the appropriation was going to be, but then we went in and actually we do have a line item budget, which is page 1 of the attachment that I presented to you. And ultimately, this will be the summary level total that the school committee will vote to approve so that we can then input a fiscal 17 budget. And then this will be the document that we actually report to you and we track expenses if we want to make adjustments or transfers from one account to another account. This will be kind of our starting balances by these major DESI function codes. So we do have that summary level data on page 1. And you can see we've made, and I figured what I could do tonight is just kind of walk you through some of the adjustments that have been made since earlier in the spring when we had prior to town meeting. You can see the bottom column on page 1, the fiscal 16-17 budget equals $550 million, which ties out to the town meeting vote from the springtime. And then when you turn the page and you get into level 2, this is the category level detail, which again corresponds to the summary level detail. And this just breaks the accounts down a little bit more on a granular level. So this actually takes a look at personnel versus non-personnel. And we can certainly go page by page through the budget, and I can answer any questions you may have. As I indicated, the vast majority of these lines didn't change from town meeting, so I could actually just walk you through the pages where there are changes to flag those for you. And then at the very end of the budget, and I will go back and do that in a second, but just to kind of show you where we're going, at the very end of the budget on page 35, you can see again that the fiscal 15-16 budget ended up with the additional supplemental town meeting appropriation from the fall being $52.9 million. It was originally $52.4. We added the extra $500,000 to help with some of the special ed costs, so that brought it to the $52.9. And then on the far right-hand column, the appropriated budget for 16-17 would be the $54.550. So that is there. Then you start on page 36. And this again gets more granular, so this actually gets into the individual staff to tie out to all of the personnel lines that are within the budget. And we've gone in and made some minor tweaks and adjustments, even currently through the last couple of weeks. If we've known people have been leaving the system, new hires coming in, if we've known there's been a salary that's been adjusted, we've gone ahead and we've made those changes so that this really reflects as real time as it can get. I think what's important, and I think everyone in this room understands, this is really just the roadmap to start the next year, and there are going to be tweaks and adjustments that need to be made over the course of the year, and it's certainly within the school committee's purview at any time to transfer from one line to another. But we have to lock in at some point as we get ready to load the fiscal 17 budget with salaries and expenses, and this is about as real time as it's going to get at this point. Several positions, obviously still need to be filled and whatnot, so they're listed as vacants or TBDs. And we've just used best case or best guess scenarios as far as salaries go. So if no one, I'm happy to answer any kind of global questions if you'd like, and then if not, we can actually kind of go into the category level detail, and I'll flag the pages where we've made some adjustments for you, and just kind of walk you through those if that's the will of the committee. Would that be okay with everyone? Sure. Okay. So the first several pages, excuse me, actually do not change. I think the first change you'll find is actually on page 13 of the budget. And on this particular page, and then there's a corresponding offset later in the budget, this is where that English teacher reduction is noted. The original budget had 26, so this budget goes down to 25. And then when we get to a further page in the budget, that's where you'll see the psychologist goes from 6 to 7. So on this particular page, you will note that the English teachers has gone from 26 to 25, and you now have a revised $1.835359 million line. There's been no other substantive change on that page. But I did want to flag that for you because that was one of the discussions we had at a previous meeting. On page 14 of the budget, another item you'll see is, and this is something that Michelle's been working on over the course of the kind of the fall, and we flagged as we were going into the budget. There were several positions in the district that have been funded either on the special education grant or within the special education contracted services line item that are really salaries that should be reflected as salaries and not contracted services, because of the relationship that the person has with us. They're really working almost a full-time capacity, but yet they're being compensated as a contractor as opposed to a salaried employee. So with the IRS regs, as far as who's really a private contractor and who's a salaried employee, we want to make this correction. So you will see on page 14 that under the board certified behavior analyst, we used to have one in the district that was listed over at Byam School in the previous budget, but the district actually has had a long-standing BCBA who's just been paid as a consultant almost through contracted services. So when we get to the SPED contracted services line, you'll see that the contracted services number has actually decreased as an offset to this particular salary account. So this dollar amount ended up being a flat $80,000 is what was budgeted in contracted services. It has been moved into a salary line, so that's why you see the BCBA go from 1 to 2, and then that 80,000 salaries come over. Same person, same duties that they're doing. They really just need to be recognized as an employee as opposed to a contractor for IRS regs.
Does it affect benefits at all?
Technically, they'd be entitled to benefits. They haven't been taking benefits, obviously, for years. And I don't know why that relationship existed. It's just been one of those kind of long-standing relationships. But it really is kind of time to make that correction and pay the person as a salaried employee as opposed to a contractor. It's not someone that's just working a couple of hours a week. They're working 30-plus hours a week for us, but just billing as a contractor, when really they should be recognized as a staff member.
I don't think you can continue that as a contractor for a long period of time.
Right.
I think eventually the IRS, and I know this for a fact, they say if it walks like a duck, looks like a duck, right, it's a duck. So therefore, you can't continue that contracted employee. If
Right.
he's been here for a period of time, he or she becomes an employee.
Right.
Am I correct?
Correct. Correct. And again, we're just trying to make these adjustments before we kind of finalize so that we can load the correct amounts into the various accounts. So that's the only change you'll see on page 14. It was that BCBA going from 1 to 2. And again, you'll see the corresponding offset when we get to the budget for SPED contracted services. So there's net no dollar increase. It's just moving the money from contracted to salaries. Next page of the budget where there was a change is on page 17. And this is in the paraprofessional special education account. Very similar situation. Previously, the FTE was listed as 152.5. There were 3 paraprofessionals who were actually in a similar situation. They're being contracted to the district through a group called Delta T. So there's an actual contract with Delta T to provide them in the district. But after you work so many hours in our district, the district has the option of actually employing the person directly as opposed to going through the contracted party. So we want to shift those 3 people actually into the district as district employees on our payroll and remove the money from contracted services. So again, this is another corresponding offset, but that is why the FTEs went from 152.5 to 155.5. You're picking up the 3 paras that technically we don't reflect FTEs on contracted services, but now you're actually going to see that in the budget. Okay, next page is 23. We'll see a change. And actually, you kind of need to look at page 23 and 27 at the same time. So on 23, what has previously been done for the last few years for contracted services. Now, the very first line on page 23, the $1,315,220 going down to the $1,075,220. That's the $240,000 reduction in contracted services that was noted previously. $80,000 was moved into salaries for the BCBA, $60,000 was moved into salaries for the paraprofessionals, and then there's one other line item later in the budget that got moved in for an ABA type assistive person in one of the schools. So that is there's $240,000 less in contracted, and you picked up the $240 in salary. So that's just a net wash, but putting people in the right buckets. In last year's grant, there was a $900,000 offset of contracted services to the special education grant. And basically, the SPED grant, the 240 grant, is a grant the district gets every year to provide for special education services. What we're recommending doing, instead of offsetting contracted services to this, we're recommending offsetting contracted services to the grant. Instead of on page 27, the $900,000 last year was taken against SPED transportation. SPED transportation is a locked kind of number. We know we're going to spend that much money, and we know we're going to spend it with primarily one vendor. The SPED grant has a carryover provision where if you don't spend it all, you can actually carry the money to the following year. It's got some good flexibility for us and what its use is, and I would recommend, and again, I've spoken with Joanna or Michelle about this, using the offset against SPED contracted services. It's just going to move the $900,000 offset from one page of the budget to another. Has no impact on the net effect, but it's going to give us greater flexibility on the grant with regard to how we use that. And then if there is money left on the 240 grant at the end of the year, it can be rolled to the next year. So if you had 5 or 10 different contracts with various providers or entities to provide services and you didn't fully use it, you can liquidate your purchase orders at the end of the year, liquidate your encumbrance, and then actually that amount would carry over to the following year, and then the school committee could reappropriate that money for another cause. Right now, we know we're going to spend the $900 in transportation. There's no flexibility. There's a chance on contracted services that you'd have some flexibility. So it does look like one line item jumps drastically and one goes down drastically, but really it has no net effect on the budget, and this is just where I recommend actually taking this as an offset. But in case...
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, in case someone asked, I wanted you to see that.
So any leftover money, and there won't be, but if there is, we can use in any way.
SPED.
Any SPED.
Right, you can carry it from one,
Yes.
on the SPED grant, you can carry it from one year to another.
Okay.
Where, again, we just don't have that flexibility on the transportation because you know you're going to spend that all. So that's more just like an administrative recommendation for kind of cleaning up. And again, that's the only real, you saw the $240,000 savings or offset to the salaries, and that's where we're recommending taking the offset for the grant. Page 25 of the budget. This is where you see the psychologist offset. So previously we reduced one English teacher. Here we're adding one psychologist. So the psychologist line goes from 6 to 7. There's a corresponding salary. The salary for the English teacher was transferred over to the salary for the psychologist line, so that's just a wash on paper, but that is where it gets picked up. Page 27, so we'll go back actually to that page, and again, that's where I showed you previously last year, we took the 900,000 offset to transportation. We're going to take it elsewhere this year. That's why you see that budget line jump so much. It's because the other line went down so much. We also did just list, and it wasn't listed last year, but just for clarity's sake, when you're reading the budget, we listed the offset that we take to ComEd for the midday transportation runs. It technically has no net effect on the budget because it is just the $120,000 savings reduction. But I actually just like to show the true budget that you're starting with and not have the net effect of the ComEd offset, so you can actually see year over year what your actual budget is. So again, no net effect change in the budget, just a way to display it so that I think it's a little more reader friendly. On page 32 of the budget would be the next change. And so on this page, in the second block down, so this is where we actually accounted for the savings from the 3 contracted service cleaning companies. We went in and we actually made that dollar adjustment change. We'd originally budgeted the $876, and we know the contract amount is going to be the $733 for those 3 different companies coming in to do the elementary, middle, and high school evening cleaning. And then you can also see that offset to ComEd, the $28,000, because the ComEd will be charged for the cleaning service for the Westland School. The other lines on the page remain almost constant from the original budget. The only thing you will see that we actually added, and this was an omission in the first go-around of the budget, there's an individual in the district, the substitute teacher coordinator, who technically is a .7 for us right now. She's on the sub-page, and that stayed the same, but she works after hours with the Aramark and the cleaning people on all of the coordination with the custodial group. So she actually, we're only right now paying the .7, and I forgot we needed to pick up the .3, her other piece of the puzzle. Even though the Aramark's leaving, the other cleaning companies are coming on board. So I did add a .3, and I added the $12,000, which is the other piece of that salary, just so that it's properly reflected. And that was that was my oversight when we were doing the budget preparation the first time around. And just as things are closing down, realized that we needed to account for that. So that's the other adjustment you'll see on that page. That was really the only thing that we kind of forgot about. And then, so page 34, when all is said and done in this budget, and I talked to page 35, how the far right-hand column now equals the town meeting appropriation, the $54,550,000. The way to make that happen is by taking an offset to school choice. So, this is no miraculous number. It's just the number you have to back into based on where you kind of fall short. So this budget, you will see on page 34, you see how we are anticipating an offset in circuit breaker funds, but then there's a new line item called less school choice fund offset of $230,029, which basically means our budget is set with the Springtown meeting town appropriation, and then an offset of $230 from the school choice funds. And I didn't know where to reflect it within the budget, but I felt this is a good place to put it. This, by the action of actually approving this budget and allowing us to set up these line items to start fiscal 17, the committee is acknowledging that we will need to tap, right now, at least for budgeting purposes, the $230,029 from the school choice account. Now, that isn't something we're going to do immediately, but we just, I wanted to have it listed somewhere in the budget book so that the committee and the public knew how we were actually coming up with that $54.5 million. I didn't want to have it off, have us have an over budget by the $230. So that's where that's reflected. And I think actually even allocating the $230, aside from that, we're still going to have, that only actually takes a piece of the current fiscal 16 school choices in the books. There's still going to be a little bit of an allocation from that remaining that we're going to carry to 17, and then we have a whole 17 allocation coming in, and that's basically next year going to be our cushion for any extraordinary kind of cases that could come into play over the course of the year. But this number wasn't in the original budget because we didn't know what it was going to be. We'd speculated it was going to be in the 220 range, and that's where the number actually came in. So in a nutshell, those are the kind of the major changes that have been done to the budget since we last met sometime in mid-April. Happy to answer any questions. I think it's a good roadmap for us to start fiscal 17 with. Again, everything from all the various sections tie out to the cover the summary totals. And ideally, whether the committee's comfortable tonight or they want to take the vote at next Tuesday's meeting, these would be the line items that I would recommend the committee actually take a vote to establish as your baseline items for fiscal 17. And then again, anytime we need to make transfers between line items or that are going to be in excess of this budget, these would be the amounts that you're actually establishing for us to have to come back to you with any kind of budget recommendations. So happy to answer any questions on, format, the way things are included or not included, and answer any questions that you have.
It's very clear. I like it.
Yeah. Well, the detail. This is a lot of work. Thank you. Well, combination of people that did it.
Yeah, no, really, Joanna and Michelle have been fantastic to help kind of put all this together. I obviously enjoy working on budgets, so it's fun for me. But no, I think it's a good level of detail, and I think it's pretty clear kind of crosswalk of kind of where we're going. What I will do for the community at large is once this is actually voted and approved as the 17 budget, I'll go back and amend the narrative to actually reflect all of these changes so that if we're looking back 3 or 5 years down the line, there'll be the narrative story that tells how we kind of got to the approved budget as opposed to just what the recommendations were. And then we'll also break this budget out further by school and be able to have the individual school budgets kind of following behind us. So again, it's a work in progress. It's a document that's going to be in flux, but I think it's a very good roadmap for us to start fiscal 17 with.
I agree.
I do have a quick question. When you look at the staff salary book, for example, in the business and finance office, you have 6 FTEs at 361,217.
Mike, which page you want?
This is on page 36.
Yeah.
And that ties back to what you've got on page 6. But you've also got a subtotal, it looks like, of 5 FTEs at 246,217. And I just don't understand what that is.
Okay, so if you look at in the business office, this is a good example. You see the 6 at 361,217. And then if you go to the personnel section on page 6 of the budget book, you see the total personnel is 6 at 361,217. And right above that is 5 FTEs at 246,217. That's where that the other one is. So the director is actually separated out on their own line item of the budget.
Okay.
So they actually have their own line in the staff salary book.
Right.
But then right below that, you see the accountant and 2 accounts payable, the student enrollment coordinator. Those 5 lines add up, and that ties out to the 246,217.
Okay.
And then that ties out.
That's the difference of 115.
Right, and then that ties out to page 6.
Right, and that's replicated in other.
Yeah, that's how we
departments as well.
do it. So any line item you actually see through the category detail that is a singular line item or has any kind like a salary for a director of business, or a combination of say all tech staff or all business staff, all teachers in a particular category, those are summed up with an FTE listed next to them. But I do think it's helpful to kind of break that out year over year. The other thing that's going to be helpful for us is when you look at the full position equivalent totals on page 1. Now that we're kind of locking into this methodology of doing the budget, next year you're going to be able to see this is the fiscal 17 FBEs, and we'll have a column right next to it so that you can actually compare year over year, not only through the district, but we'll be able to do that breakdown by school for you, so you can see a little bit of movement. So say like the 3rd grade teacher at, or no, I'm sorry, 4th grade teacher at Harrington's moving to Byam, and you'll be able to kind of pick that up year over year. But that's how you kind of read the staff salary book. It all ties out to each individual line within the category detail.
I'd like some feedback in terms of whether you want to vote tonight or next time.
I don't see why we shouldn't vote tonight.
I agree. I think we've discussed most of these moves anyway.
I think the moves that Jay made are very minor in nature, and I'm prepared to make a motion.
Just one sec, so Mike or Bob, are you okay?
Yeah, okay, I don't think there's any super controversial
No.
changes here.
Mike?
Right, I'd agree with that too. I think a lot of this has been telegraphed well in advance. The other thing is that it is a living document, if you will, and we expect that there will be changes made as we go along, and the important thing is to be obvious and transparent in those changes.
I think Jay talked about this being a fluid document, but this is a good roadmap, this is a good baseline to start with.
Should the motion include reference to the lines as well as the bottom figure?
Yeah, it should. It might, if I could suggest, it might be like a motion to accept the superintendent's FY17 recommended budget as delineated in the summary level total page of the budget with various line items listed by DESI function code totaling $54,550,000.
We really need an acronym for that.
Yes.
For which one?
Stick
For
that-
all of that.
Let's stick that into the acronym maker.
Let me take a shot at this,
Sure.
please. So I'd like to make a motion that we accept the superintendent's FY17 budget, fiscal year 17 budget, recommended as delineated in the summary page with various DESI code
Line items.
line items that total 54,550. Would that be accurate, sir?
Yep, $54,550,000.
I mean, I gotta get a little kudos on that.
That was
one.
good.
That was a good
Second.
That was
Thank you very much.
on the
I was
fly.
writing like a dog right there. Second, thank you,
Second.
Barbara.
Motion made and seconded. Are there any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll now vote. All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposition? Yeah, sorry.
You do need a roll call vote on this.
Oh, okay, thank you. Sorry. Michael?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Now it's unanimous. Thank you.
Jay, congratulations to you and the staff. Please
Ah,
let them know how much we appreciate their hard work. This is certainly a transparent document. Anybody can understand that. And the fact that you put it out there this early for people to understand and be able to ask questions, we appreciate it. And we think this is exactly where this committee wants to go. Thank you, Jay.
Great, you're welcome. No, it's been a pleasure working with you on it. Thank you.
That's great.
Our second item of the evening, this was an out-of-state field trip that came in from Chelmsford High School, and instead of waiting until next Tuesday, because it's a timeliness thing on the trip, we decided to put it on this agenda. But the Chelmsford High School yearbook would like permission to attend a one-night, overnight trip at the end of June to Bryan College in Rhode Island. So I'd recommend approval of that trip.
I just added, this is an annual event.
Yeah, it's annual, yeah.
I make a motion that we approve the out-of-state overnight, one-night field trip to Bryan College.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Any old business?
We have no more business tonight.
That's good. Any liaison reports? I have a question relates to that. Are the various people that we have connections with, are they notified of what we've done, or is that something we should do?
Like who?
Like Mr. Cole, that his field trip was approved.
Oh, the people.
No, what I'm referring to the liaison, so,
Oh.
yeah, we made some changes. I mean, I know it's out there, because I've seen it, but should we contact people?
Changes to the budget?
No, to the liaison.
In charge, Jay.
You know what, I can, if you'd like, we haven't yet, I could work with Debbie, and we could just email or send a letter to each of the groups to just advise them of who are the,
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea, because, if we send something, we probably have to send it to the principal. We don't know what,
no, we can get those emails out before the end of the week, before school goes
I
out.
mean, that'd be great.
I have a report from the Chelmsford High School. I attended my absolute last PTO meeting last night as a member of a PTO after, I don't know how many years, but too many. And it was a great report on the after prom event. It was very well attended, and it's the largest crowd at the ending I've ever seen.
That's great.
And it's surprising how many students go to that event, not knowing that there are prizes and checks given out during the course of the evening. So when they walk in, they don't know what they're anticipating, I guess. They don't know what's going to happen. And it's just a tremendous amount of food, and there's dancing, DJs, tattoos. They have a blast, and it was a really terrific event. And we talked a little bit about maybe moving it to the high school rather than the senior center next year. That's their turf, and it seems like that would be a good place to have it. Anyway, it was a very successful event. The parents of this class came through as far as donations go. Did not expect the amount of contributions that we got. It was a very nice event.
Did the financial part of it work out?
Worked out great, really well.
Because I got a thing from...
Yeah, I mean, you know, we always, you kind of, you know, get scared when they're not coming in. It's like that with any event.
I know.
But they really came through at the end, so it was nice. And we gave out, I want to say 3 large LCD televisions and,
Wow.
you know, refrigerators. And at the end of the night, the $1,000 check. Someone got a $500 check. There's some 250s. It's just a great night, and the longer you stay, the better the prizes get. So some students tried to attend at 4 a.m., and we had to turn them away because that defeats the purpose of the event. The idea is to have a safe evening and come here and have a, you know, a clean night. And if students are coming in at 4, they've already had a chance to have their fun, and now they're coming in and swooping in to get the big prizes, and we decided that that's not fair to the others who stayed. So we'll probably next year publicize a time to check in, and then, you know, you can't leave. You can leave after that, but you can't come back in. A lot of students try to leave and come back in, and leave and come back in, and we put the kibosh on that. So, but all in all, it was probably the best of the after-prom events we've had. Very good.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'd like to commend the people who are running it, because several years ago, we lost a $5,000
Yes.
annual donor, which...
That was a hit.
Yeah, that was really a challenging thing, and to hear that everything's in good shape
Yeah.
it represents a lot of hard work by...
And the leftovers are packed up and sent to a group at Lowell High School, and they wrote us thank you notes, and one of the notes said, I hope you do this again next year. We really like it. And another one was, some of us are more appreciative than others. So,
Well, that's great.
yeah.
Anything else that...
Just to follow up, I'd still like to see the community ed budget,
Yes.
and some of the other revolving.
The revolving
budgets.
grant, we'll work on
Yes,
over
just kind of as a follow-on to the appropriated budget. I also had a question about whether we're going to see the school improvement plans this year. We've changed that a little bit by having them come in, but will we do the same thing, have them all here at once, or?
I wasn't going to do that because they have come in over the course of the year. Linda was kind of compiling all the year-end information. It was going to be presenting at the next.
Yeah,
I don't put you on the spot. Was it the next meeting?
improvement plan at the next week.
The next, okay.
And underneath that, you'll see the school improvement plans with their updated in their status column, as well as the department status updates.
Okay, so you'll do it all together.
Correct.
Okay.
I won't be telling you, like, this is what happened at the high school, this is what happened at McCarthy Middle School, to give you the district improvement plan, but you'll have those documents embedded underneath, along with the department updates. It's that big thing.
Right, it'll be a 500-page packet, yeah.
I will also give you the larger sheet of the years of the strategic plan as to what's been accomplished, what's been moved, so you at least have that full view from 2012.
How it started, right. I think we're year 4 now, right?
13, 14, 15, and 16.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the thought was, because Linda had done like a December, she did like the mid-year review. So we'll do the year-end review, kind of from the administration. And then if there's anything, you know, we'll be starting to kind of work on next year's planning, but if there's anything specific that we want to kind of address when we take a look at, you know, kind of how this year went, and even this summer when it's a little quieter, we talk about like format and what we might like to see in presentations next year. We can kind of hash that out then. But that was the plan.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I'd just like to commend all of the people involved in putting out information on the elementary and middle schools. A lot of the year, the press coverage focuses on the high school, and whether it's field days, and what I understand they went really well, or you know, some of the activities that went on. The coverage has been very good, and I think it's a good time to balance things out. I also have a question. I saw on one of the sites that Claire Markey is going to UCLA to run.
Yes, Division
Wow.
One. So she trains year-round for everything, and I think I don't know if they approached her or she approached the track team, you know, do you want to run for us? And she's like, well, yeah, I'm already in shape, I'll do it. She beats the school record her first meet. Second meet, she beats her own record. Then she goes on to states to qualify, and then she comes in 4th in the entire state in her first season ever running track. And UCLA, where she was intending to go, reached out and said, hey, why not? So yeah, she's D1.
That's fantastic.
That is unbelievable. And she's an incredible student on top of it.
That's
A lot of
great.
reasons to be proud.
Yeah, very good. Any other comments that would go on to liaison reports? Hearing none. Is there any, several of the open items that we had were policy things that we're going to come back to. Is there anything else outstanding? I don't remember anything.
Not lately.
All right. Do we have anything new? I don't think we, no. Gee, this is unbelievable.
At least you just have like an intro type meeting, because
Oh, I know.
this was an extra.
I know. There's no press,
Don't get used to it.
so is it safe to ask for a motion to adjourn?
I think it's good.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye, unanimous.
We do have a good session.
Yeah, we have an executive session.